Welcome to Kuma English Listening Hub. Today, we're going backstage in the most literal sense. Not to gossip about celebrities or review opening nights, but to look at the machinery of theater as a working system. Specifically, the hidden logistics that allow a West End show to happen again and again, 8 times a week, with thousands of tiny decisions landing spot on. If you've ever sat in a plush seat near Shaftesbury Avenue, you'll know the feeling. The house lights dim, the orchestra tunes, and suddenly you're transported. It looks effortless, but that effortlessness is a carefully rehearsed illusion. Behind the curtain, the building is doing a kind of controlled sprint, and everyone in it is running a relay. One drop baton, and the whole thing can wobble. Let's begin with a simple question that sounds daft until you try to answer it. What exactly is a show? You might say it's the script, the performers, the music. Fair enough. But for the people who keep it alive, a show is also inventory. It's a schedule. It's a set of safety checks. It's a pile of paperwork. It's an agreement with a union, a contract with a supplier, a delivery time slot in central London that has to avoid congestion and, quite often, avoid angry neighbors. In the theater, time is the currency that everyone spends, and no one has enough of. A standard West End week tends to be 8 performances. Evening shows plus matinees, often Wednesday and Saturday. That means there are days when the entire organization has to reset itself twice in the same day. If you think that sounds tiring, you're right. People get properly knackered. The wonder is that it still happens with astonishing consistency. Picture the building on a show day. From the street, it's all posters and marquees. Inside, it's a warehouse with velvet. The stage door is the heartbeat. It's where people sign in, where visitors are checked, where the post lands, where deliveries are argued over, where someone inevitably says, "Mate, we're not putting that there." It's a fire risk, one of the least glamorous. Most essential roles is the stage manager. If actors are the visible nervous system, the stage manager is the spine. They call the cues lights, sound, scene changes, flying pieces, automation, pyrotechnics if you've got them, and sometimes even the onstage fog that makes everyone cough in the interval. A cue isn't merely pressing a button. It's timing, judgment, and contingency planning. If a performer misses an entrance, the stage manager doesn't panic, they adapt. They might hold a scene change, delay a blackout, or adjust a sound cue so the moment still lands. And cueing only works because the show is built to be repeatable. That brings us to the physical objects. Scenery, props, costumes, wigs, microphones, instruments, and what theater people call consumables. Consumables are the things you use up. Batteries, tape, fake blood, paper, breakaway items, sometimes even food if the actors eat on stage. Every one of those has to be tracked. Not vaguely. Exactly. Because the night the batteries run out is the night the lead actor's microphone dies mid-ballad, and you can practically hear the audience collectively think, "Blimey." Let's talk about sound for a moment, because modern musical theater is a technical marvel. Radio mics are tiny, temperamental, and extremely expensive. Each actor might have 2 or 3 microphones allocated across a week, with backups. There will be a designated place backstage for mic packs, labeled and charged. There will be rules about who touches what and when. There will be a ritual for fitting them. Headset wire carefully taped, pack placed so it doesn't rub, sweat protection applied. It sounds fussy because it is. One wrong cable route and you get crackle. One loose connector and you get silence. Now consider costumes. In a quick change show, a performer may have under a minute to swap an entire outfit, including shoes, wig, and accessories, while catching their breath and keeping an eye on the next entrance. That doesn't happen because they're magical. It happens because dressers have rehearsed the change like choreography. Clothes are preset in the same place, facing the same direction, fastened in the same order. Snaps and magnets replace buttons. Duplicate items exist because something will tear, spill, or vanish into the Bermuda Triangle behind the flats. And then there's laundry, which is less romantic than applause but more reliable. Costumes absorb sweat, makeup, and sometimes stage dust that gets everywhere. Each night, items are checked, aired, cleaned, repaired. A wardrobe department is part dry cleaner, part tailor, part archaeologist, digging glitter out of seams for weeks on end. When a show runs for months or years, the wardrobe team becomes a conservation unit, keeping fabrics alive long past their expected lifespan. Props are another universe. The audience sees a book, a teacup, a letter. Backstage, those items are logged, labeled, often duplicated, and placed on props tables with taped outlines so you can see at a glance what's missing. If a prop is dangerous, like a stage weapon, the control becomes stricter. Sign-out procedures, checks, lockable storage. In British theater, safety culture is taken seriously. And rightly so. One mistake can injure someone, and the show would be stopped, no questions asked. All of this operates within the physical constraints of a West End theater, many of which are old buildings with quirky layouts. Some have narrow corridors, steep stairs, awkward sightlines, and dressing rooms that feel like they were designed by someone who'd never met a human body. Space is at a premium. So, logistics becomes a three-dimensional puzzle. Where does the spare set piece live? Where do you store a replacement chandelier? How do you move something enormous through a door built in 1890? That's where get-ins and fit-ups come in. When a show moves into a theater, the production team loads in the set, rigging, lighting, sound, and everything else. A get-in is a bit like moving house, except your house is a moving target and you've got a lorry booked for a specific window. In central London, those windows can be brutally tight. If your truck is late, you may lose your slot. If you lose your slot, you may have to wait. And waiting is expensive because crew are on the clock. During a get-in, departments have to coordinate like air traffic control. Lighting wants access to the grid. Sound wants to run cables. Carpentry needs space to assemble platforms. Automation wants to test moving elements. The stage manager wants to know what's safe to walk on. Meanwhile, the theater itself has rules: load limits, fire exits, noise restrictions, and the small matter of not breaking the building. Once the show is up and running, the logistics shift from building to maintaining. This is where the phrase show maintenance is almost comically understated. It includes daily checks, weekly checks, and what's called a show report, a written log of what happened in each performance. The report might note a costume rip, a missed prop, an actor feeling unwell, a technical glitch, an audience incident, even the weather if it affected the building. It's not gossip. It's institutional memory. If you want a real sense of how professional theater thinks, look at how it handles problems, quietly, systematically, without drama. Suppose a moving set piece begins to drift by a centimeter each night. Nobody shrugs and hopes for the best. They measure. They consult the automation tech. They check the floor marks. They review the cue timing. They decide whether to adjust the mechanism or adjust the staging. And they do it without the audience knowing anything was ever amiss. Then there's the human side, the company. In British theater, there's a strong culture of camaraderie, but also of boundaries. People are friendly, but they're working. The cast has vocal health to protect. The musicians have stamina to manage. Crew have physically demanding shifts, sometimes with early calls after late finishes. On a two-show day, everyone has to pace themselves. You'll hear phrases like, "save it for the second act," or "keep your powder dry," meaning don't burn all your energy too soon. Illness is a logistical challenge as much as a health issue. Understudies and swings exist for a reason. A swing might cover multiple roles, ready to step in with little warning. That requires an extraordinary mental filing system. Different choreography, different harmonies, different costumes, different mic assignments. When a standby goes on, the entire backstage plan subtly changes. Quick change, plots alter. Props, tracking changes. Even lighting might adjust if the performer's height or timing differs. The audience might get an announcement, but the real work happens behind the scenes. And what about the front of house? The people you actually meet? Ushers, box office, bar staff, duty manager. They're part of the logistics too. They manage latecomers, accessibility needs, lost property, intoxicated patrons, school groups, and the occasional person who insists their seat is better than their ticket. They also manage mood. A good front of house team can make a venue feel welcoming, calm, and sorted, even when the building is packed. Interval is a miniature operation. Bars need stock, ice, glasses, snacks, wine, soft drinks. Payments have to work. Cues have to flow. Toilets become a kind of social experiment. Meanwhile, backstage, actors are rehydrating, changing, getting notes, resetting props, and preparing for the second half. If you ever wonder why the interval is precisely 20 minutes, it's because longer loses momentum and shorter becomes chaos. Now let's zoom out to money, because logistics and finance are glued together. A West End show is a business with high fixed costs: theater rent, wages, marketing, insurance, royalties, maintenance, and more. The margin can be slimmer than you'd expect. A single canceled performance can be financially painful. So the logistics are designed to prevent cancellations. Redundancy is built in: spare microphones, spare costumes, backup plans for set failures, emergency covers for staffing. Marketing even has logistical consequences. If a show offers rush tickets, day seats, or special promotions, front of house must adapt. Box office systems need training. Seating plans shift. The theater has to balance accessibility, revenue, and audience experience. It's not just selling tickets, it's managing a living room full of strangers who have all paid different amounts and all expect a brilliant evening. There's also the matter of sustainability, which theaters are increasingly keen on. Sets are often built from timber and steel. Costumes use synthetic fabrics. Touring requires transport. Lighting rigs use power. Many productions now try to reduce waste. Reusing flats, renting costumes, choosing LED fixtures, recycling materials, and planning for what happens when the show closes. Closing is its own logistical event, called the Get Out. Everything is removed, sold, stored, repurposed, or disposed of responsibly. It can be emotionally odd. One night you're getting a standing ovation. A week later, you're loading the dream into a skip. What fascinates me most is that theater logistics are a blend of discipline and improvisation. The discipline is in the systems: checklists, markings, reports, schedules. The improvisation is in responding to the reality of live performance. A prop breaks, an actor forgets a line, a costume zip fails, an audience member coughs through a quiet monologue, a fire alarm goes off somewhere nearby. The show, as they say, must go on, but only if it can go on safely. So the next time you're in a theater and the lights fade, think about the invisible choreography that's already in motion. A dresser is waiting with the next costume. A deputy stage manager is tracking props like a hawk. A sound operator is writing faders. A fly operator is watching marks. A front of house manager is scanning the aisles. And someone, somewhere, is quietly solving a problem you'll never hear about. It's rather lovely, isn't it? Hundreds of people, most of whom you'll never see, cooperating to create a shared illusion for a couple of hours. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. And when it all lands perfectly, when the cues are crisp and the changes are seamless, the audience leaves thinking they've witnessed magic. In a way, they have. Cheers for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.